I'm Stephen Basset. I'm the Executive Director of Paradigm Research Group, which is not really a resource organization and a group, but it was set up in 1996 to advocate for the resolution of the extraterrestrial question. Can only be achieved, or at least the beginning of achievement would be formal acknowledgement by the heads of states of nation, what we call disclosure now. And initially I registered as a lobbyist on the part of a number of research organizations who were doing work in that area. That's where the name Paradigm Research Group came.
This is Ivan Ivanov, and you are watching UFO Disclosure Bulgaria. We have the documents. We have the witnesses. True stories about UFOs, visitors from outer space and other worlds.
To ultimately lead to an announcement from the President of the United States or from another head of state. And that's what I do. I may have said that the last days of a president's time in office, which is really the last days of their political career. Some presidents will have a little something afterwards, it varies.
Yeah.
Is a possibility because they have no, it's not political consequences.
Yeah.
But as his term, well before his term ended, year and a half out, I was fully aware that Secretary Clinton was going to run, and that she was very likely to disclose, if she became president, and so my focus was really on that. But, all right, what I did say, and this may have confused people, is that PRG was for 2 years was working in Washington to really get the political media engaged on the ET issue about her connection to it during the campaign, which obviously is a highly followed event, right? Mm-hmm. And if that media interest had reached a critical point, critical mass, and we had kind of achieved a media frenzy, it's possible that it would have forced disclosure out before Obama was gone. And now I understand your question better. Yeah, I was talking on those terms, but it wasn't so much because of something that Obama would choose to do, but it would have been forced on him because of developments regarding the Clinton candidacy. Mm-hmm. And that was the plan, which of course that plan blew up when Trump was elected.
I heard that the Clinton family is more familiar with all this visitation and UFOs.
Well, they have more political connection to this issue than any other politicians, not only them, but people around them, than any other political team out there in modern times, or at least it's publicly known in modern times. The history goes all the way back to the Rockefeller Initiative, which began in 1993.
Yes.
So, and that's why she's been the focus of so much attention on this.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think they want it. I think they would prefer to be able to totally control what is said about that regarding them. But the fact is that history arrived at their door in '93, and that was that. And then they have said things since then. So they are and still remain a potentially significant component of a end days of the truth embargo, depending on what they choose to do.
I remember one of her interviews during her campaign. They asked her what she think about all these UFOs, and she said, "The first thing I'm going to do if I became a president, I'm going to release all these files."
Again, that she was saying those things and things like that, as well as her campaign co-chair John Podesta, because of pressure being put on by reporters that I had been drawing into the issue through the political initiative that was underway in Washington.
I mean, everybody said that, but they never happening.
Nobody has said that in a political campaign, ever. No presidential candidate has ever said that.
Yeah, actually, no for presidential campaign.
Well,
but
I mean,
in different shows after.
Jimmy Carter, I think maybe actually before the election, might have said that he would do some looking into it because of the interest. I'm not sure, but he didn't go anywhere near as far as Clinton did.
Okay.
But she didn't want to do that. She was forced to do that by pressure from media, demanding answers to questions that she wouldn't give them. And so she was making these controlled statements in context that she had control with, in a sense, in order to keep that pressure at bay. It's a very complex situation. I lecture on it. I'll be talking about it here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, on Saturday at the International UFO Congress.
How many, I mean, what is your opinion? How many members of the Congress are aware about this?
There's almost no one in the United States that isn't aware of UFOs. Right. It's 100% market penetration.
Yeah.
How many of them believe or know one way or another
or
that
supporting
the phenomenon is ET based? Probably a decent amount, probably at least 50% or more. That doesn't mean they say anything.
And why they still stay quiet and keep that secrets?
Because it is the nature of our politics today that our leaders, at certainly all the national level, simply don't want to do anything that reduces their chances of staying in office. They're putting their political ambitions ahead of the nation's interest. This has become almost epidemic.
Dr. Greer says that he talked about the petrol mafia and all these families who are dealing with petroleum company, controlling all this stuff, and they want to, maybe they are just a part of the people who don't want to all these things to be discovered.
The oil industry, certainly, I wouldn't expect the oil industry to raise their hand if they were asked, would you like to see the disclosure of the extraterrestrial presence? They would consider it a potential problem to their bottom line because the high-end, the owners, the management, high-end management of these major oil companies, they're very wealthy, they're very highly connected, they have good ties to the military intelligence complex, and so I'm pretty sure most of them kind of know there's an ET presence, and they probably know there's some significant technology that's sequestered behind that truth embargo, and they don't want that technology, if it poses any threat to selling oil at the highest price for as long as possible, to come out. And so they're not going to raise their hand and say yes. But fortunately for us, the decision really isn't theirs. It lies within the military intelligence complex itself, where they don't, I mean, they may show up once in a while, but they're not in on the high-level meetings about our national security.
Do you know if really is there something like a government different from this government who rule the country?
Government within a government. I don't like...
Or maybe not exactly government, but some secret organization who...
Again, I don't like that particular perspective. There is a massive amount of secrecy.
Yeah.
And it's conducted, there's secrecy involved in almost every federal agency, government, and even the Department of Agriculture. But the military intelligence complex is certainly now a massive repository of secret programs, documents, people. They classify everything, including the toilet paper, frankly. And so I like to refer to them as more like a secret empire. But it's not a second government. But it's increasingly independent of constitutional oversight. So in that sense, it's kind of a breakaway empire. My good friend and colleague Richard Dolan likes to use breakaway civilization. I won't go that far. To the extent that any of these ultra-secret programs impact our national policies, our relationship with other nations, then they are, in a sense, affecting government. And that's not good.
What about MD-12?
There was certainly a group that was assigned to manage the ET issue during the Truman administration, carried over into the Eisenhower administration. And I have a really good feeling that's what it was called. I think when the name came out, the name might have been mixed into some disinformation, but I think that name is probably the right name.
They still exist?
The management of the issue exists.
Yes, yeah.
I would doubt they call themselves that anymore. It would risk creating attention.
Okay, and what you can reveal to the world about all this UFOs and secrecies and
What can I reveal?
yeah.
Well, I mean,
I mean, no,
I speak all
like
the time.
what you still not tell to the public about this?
There is nothing I do not tell the public that I think is relevant to this. I don't have any secrets.
No, I'm not talking about secrets, but maybe something new is come. Maybe you find out
is there
something new.
something? Well, I'm always finding out something new.
Of course.
But I pretty much find it out at the same time everybody else can find it out. It's in the news or it's in social network. I don't have secret channels or anything like that. I do have an announcement I'm going to make on Saturday at my lecture at the International UFO Congress.
Yeah.
So that's new.
Okay.
And I think it's an important announcement. And then, of course, it'll be announced to everyone else very quickly thereafter.
Yeah.
So if you're able to film that, you might be able to get that into your.
I cannot film it inside.
Probably not.
I can do after.
Well, look, after my lecture,
Yeah,
you catch
yeah.
me. I'd be happy to
Right.
answer a couple questions about it.
Okay.
That's the one new thing I have coming up, and then I have Plus, I just published my new website. I redid my entire website, which is huge, and made it 21st century. So that's up.
Of course.
That's new.
Yeah.
But beyond that, no. I pretty much the only thing that I keep from media, from people, the public in general, is that there are times when I promise certain individuals I talk to that I will not divulge their names. If I make that promise, I keep it.
If you invited in Europe, Bulgaria, have you open for that to accept?
I'm open to speak anywhere in the world. I've done 3 tours of Europe. One was a huge one. 11 countries, 18 lectures, 11 countries. And so I'm looking to do more. So I extend that willingness to everyone that sees this. Well, the presentation here at the International UFO Congress, Congress conference, was about the prospects of disclosure in 2018. And one of the most important developments is the emergence of a group called the To the Stars Academy that was put together by a wealthy musician and artist and researcher of the phenomena, Tom DeLonge. And the team was put together with the assistance of insiders in the Pentagon and the CIA, which is pretty much unprecedented.
Can we trust with that or not?
Well, let's put it this way.
Because, I mean, you know who paid here for the music.
Trust but verify, according to Ronald Reagan, right? Trust but verify.
Okay.
So far, I'm comfortable with what I'm hearing. That's all I can say at this point. And this group of people have credentials unprecedented amongst any group brought together to openly discuss this subject. One of the team has already made it clear there's an extraterrestrial presence, right? Has already called for the press and the congressional committees to probably go over and chat with the Pentagon about it. They've announced, they released for the first time information about a study that the Pentagon was kind of required to put together by Harry Reid of the U.S. Senate, and so forth. Robert Bigelow has now come out several times. He's clearly involved. He's a billionaire. So this team, as near as I can tell, has 2 functions. One, to advance the disclosure process, perhaps with a pace that they have in mind, but you know how it works out in real history. Your pace may not be history's pace. And also to basically show that the people inside are not bad guys. They're not bad men and women. They're good people. They had national security restrictions, but now they're trying to help out without breaking the law, without violating non-disclosure agreements. And they're doing a pretty good job of that. And I absolutely expected nothing less. I'm on the Pentagon. If I've been working my whole life for national security, I don't want to be seen as an evildoer. Particularly if disclosure takes place and everybody wants to know why we did not make any effort to help the people. Well, they couldn't, really. It's a political problem, and the politics in America is now dysfunctional. So this is an important development. There are other developments. There's much more to come. The release of the first gun camera footage in history was a milestone. At this pace, knowing what I know about the media and where they're at, things could pretty much break wide open later this year. The political situation, of course, is very chaotic. I don't know how that will work out, but so disclosure this year is certainly possible. Also because as this becomes more potentially a reality, another nation might step in and say, okay, it's time, and they'll do it, and they'll make the announcement to their people. So disclosure 2018, that's the theme of my conferences. The other thing that happened today is very important for me and to me, is that PRG, Paradigm Research Group, announced that it has entered into a film partnership with Never Ending Light Productions, and we're going to make a documentary. It's called Disclosure. It's going to be a political doc. It's going to cover the history of the political aspects of this issue since March 29 of 1993 and November the 8th of 2016, that election. It's going to involve interviews with many researchers involved in the Rockefeller Initiative, journalists involved in the political initiative that occurred during the campaign, possibly some interviews with some people from the National Institute of Discovery Sciences, and of course, ultimately, assuming they become convinced that they need to, the former President of the United States, Bill Clinton, Secretary Hillary Clinton, George Stephanopoulos, Al Gore, Webster Hubbell, Leon Panetta, all the people attached to the Clinton team during the Rockefeller Initiative. If that happens, we have a major documentary. Now, the goal of this project is not to just make a documentary. We intend to put that documentary in a couple thousand theaters. We're going to make this a theatrical release so that this issue will finally get the kind of gravitas and appropriate attention it deserves. The model is Fahrenheit 9/11, which is a political documentary that was very important to a lot of people because the issues had implications for them, not just some narrow niche documentary about a particular issue. And of course, the ET issue is about as global as it could be. And Fahrenheit 9/11 is the second highest grossing documentary in history at $122 million. And so we are using that as our benchmark to create a documentary that will have that kind of appeal to people, that they really feel they need to see it because they know something very important is going on and they want to be part of it.
And you sure that all these politicians, they're going to talk like Clinton's and other people?
No, I'm not sure. But we're not going to approach them right away. We're going to approach them when this documentary is well along the way and we have nice trailers out.
Yeah.
And our message to them, well, you can tell your story here,
yeah,
or we'll tell it for you.
Yeah. Why are they scared to talk about this? Or maybe they're not scared, but they don't want to talk. The politicians, Clintons, for example.
The United States government went to enormous lengths to ridicule, undermine, and ghettoize this issue since the 1940s.
Yeah.
It created an institutional status for it. They embargoed it, like they embargoed the island of Cuba. And from 1962 on, I think you couldn't go there. You may want to go there, but you couldn't go there.
Yeah.
Right? And so they embargoed this issue, and they made it clear to lots of people, you don't go there. And they were able to institutionalize it to the point where the academics, the major media, and the politicians would go, this thing is tainted, we won't want to touch it. Now, that is not the way to run a constitutional republic or a democratic country. It's not the way to operate if you have the kind of constitution we have. But that's what they're doing. And there are consequences for the nation by this, and we never want it to happen again, where the government basically says there's a whole bunch of important stuff out there, it doesn't exist, and don't ask about it. That never should happen again in America. We'll see.
Yesterday I watched a presentation of Linda Walton. She talked about, she showed up documents about conversation between President Reagan and CIA agent.
I think you're talking about Linda Moulton Howe?
Yeah.
Yeah, Linda Moulton Howe. Yes.
Yeah, yesterday. And that probably never will be in the public until yesterday.
Well, this was
because I heard for the first time yesterday.
This was kind of delivered in the hands of somebody. It may or may not be a actual representation of that conversation. It might, but it's not out of the question, right? So it's part of this vast evidentiary matrix we have that is filled with, unfortunately, misinformations and mistakes and what have you. But based on what we know, that dialogue between the agent and Reagan is certainly plausible. And if true, it just goes to show that, again, we had decades and decades of people knowing but not talking.
I think he was one of the presidents who actually has a personal experience with UFO.
He had several sightings.
Yeah, so
Jimmy Carter had a sighting.
I think it's completely possible that conversation to.
But Reagan was the kind of man. He was. If you review his administration, he's the kind of man. Look, I got people that do stuff, and that's their job. And so I imagine if they briefed him on the ET action, his attitude would have been, okay, look, you people are the national security people. You know what should happen, and I'm trusting you to take care of it, and you let me know what you want me to do. And obviously they didn't really want him to get into it, though he did mention the ET issue a number of times to their consternation. That's just kind of the way he governed. He governed by strong delegation.
Yeah.
That's fine. And also the time. It was before the end of the Cold War, right? And
yeah.
The idea of coming out with the ET, no one wanted that. And Reagan certainly would have understood any urgency or any statement from the military intelligence complex. Ron, we can't get this out now. Too dangerous. We're still faced off with the Soviets with thousands of missiles, and so he wouldn't have said anything that would be a threat to the truth embargo.
I mean, Cold War is a fact, but also can be a very good excuse for politicians to keep secrets.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And what was in my mind?
Take your time. Don't hurry.
Oh, I remember. So there's some rumors that John Kennedy was killed because he already thinking to reveal something special, and because he was close with Marilyn Monroe. I mean, she lost her life, and that is not suicide.
Yeah, this is one of the many countless theories that are out there about the history of this issue. Has a bit of substance to it. Hasn't been established. Hasn't been proven.
You don't have any evidence,
No.
information about this?
There's enough there that it would be maybe nice if some well-funded investigation teams were to go and maybe try to dig deeper, though many have looked at the Marilyn Monroe thing. In terms of Kennedy, until after the truth embargo and more of the records regarding Kennedy are released, we will not know what was really going on. But I know enough about the history of the time to know that it's impossible that Kennedy did not know something was going on. Now, how much the government told him, I don't know. Did he decide to make a substantial move there and inform insiders of that? Very possible. He was a visionary guy. All this is possible. But you know how the way it is, theories become fact in the internet. And that conversion from theory to fact, unfortunately, is not that easy. And we need to have more facts and less theories.
Most of the people like to believe in science fiction theories and conspiracy, and someday someone supposed to say if that was or not was.
And in many things we'll never know, believe me. A great deal of history we don't know.
Uh-huh.
It happened, and we'll never know. That's the way it is, and a lot of the history of the 20th century will probably not be known. It's a lot of stuff there. A lot of things are done privately, and
because it's deep. Because it's deep cover, or
for a lot of reasons. It's just history is a vast ocean moving forward. Currents, ocean currents. You just can't follow it all. But Kennedy, because he was assassinated, I think it's important for us to know everything possible about his administration and what was going on and the assassination. And not surprisingly, they've underdone that. There's so many potential oxes to be gored, so many people that get hurt. So as a result, when it comes to those kinds of things, they always under-investigate. Now it's up to the American people to decide if that's what you want. Or do you want to know the truth about these major events and are going to demand with great force that they be investigated to the nth degree? That's up to the American people.
Do you know something for 9/11?
Other than I'm not satisfied with the investigation, the depth of it, nor the what I would call all of the conclusions they came out with. But that's as far as I can go. I'm not satisfied. And Well, I ought to be satisfied. They ought to do an investigation so comprehensive, so detailed, and so transparent that virtually everybody in the country could go, okay, I'm satisfied with that. They just don't do that because they view us as children, and not to be too upset by adult information.
Do you know about this underground military bases?
We got lots of them. Lots of them.
Some details?
I've never been there.
Ah, okay.
Trust me. We got the machinery to build
But
them all.
probably you heard something about this.
Of course. I mean, there's some books out. Read Richard Sauder's Underground Bases. I mean, it's putting stuff underground is just one of the great luxuries of the government. If you want to hide something, being underground really is a good thing.
Yeah.
And of course the Germans did that too. They had vast, underground facilities they were using that they made with slave labor, really the hard way. We have fantastic machines that are able to create space. And so they have put huge amounts of research and activities underground, and American people have allowed it. American presidents are not pretty much informed properly about it. And so it's like another world down there, and that's not what the founders of the United States of America had in mind.
That's right. I mean, it's not supposed to be like this way.
No.
Mm-hmm. Probably you don't know anything about Dulce, New Mexico.
I can't speak to specific underground facilities, no.
Okay. Or maybe, okay, anyway. Because there's rumors also for experiments with human DNA.
Well, that's the problem with underground. You can't see it. You can't go there, and so it's right. You can have all the theories in the world could spring up.
Yeah.
And all that just makes it more confusing. And some of these theories could be really super dark and awful.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but we're just being run around in circles, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting to the truth. We're just in an endless circle of speculation, and that's good for the government because it keeps us off their back. But that's not good for me. Not for me.
I mean, yeah, many people are looking for that answers, and
If they can't get the answers, they make them up.
yeah.
Don't blame them.
Well, what else you can say? I mean,
Well,
if you have, I mean, right now you have this opportunity. You have many opportunities to talk.
Let me speak to the people of your country and also Europe in general. I've been there a number of times. I've spoken in many cities. I want to come back. I want to.
Have you been in Bulgaria? I forget. I don't remember if I asked you.
I went to Sofia. Was it Sofia?
Sofia, yeah.
I think I did.
Wow.
One time. It was nice, a little group, but I want to come back and speak to large audiences across Europe. I want to talk about disclosure, which affects everybody. I want to talk about this film that we're making, which we're gonna.
When will be ready that movie?
We're hoping to have it done by the end of the year.
Okay.
And it'll be closed caption, and it's going to be done in a number of languages, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and maybe we can use this opportunity to present your movie and also to talk.
Of course. But in between now and then, I'm happy to come to Europe and lecture to venues and so forth about the potential reality of disclosure in 2018 and the implications for all people, all governments, and so forth. And I've kind of done it before, but now things are even more interesting than the last time I was there. I think I did a tour in 2009, 2002 and 2010, I think, something like that. Mm-hmm. But that's 8 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot has happened since then.
Yeah, many things has changed.
I'm hoping that some people will get some venues together. I mean, let's talk to some people. Let's talk to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. This subject is not a niche subject.
We
right?
can do it in Sofia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if people want to put that together and get in touch with me through my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org.
Yeah.
We can certainly arrange to have a presentation.
I have friends in one of the national TVs, and I believe they're going to use this. I mean, I'm not going to take much of that, but only because I would like that to be spread in the world, and
sure.
That's all.
And in these days now, you have this wonderful technology where you can rent for very little bit of money headsets, and then you hire a really top quality simultaneous translator, UN quality.
Right.
And then they translate in real time, and you can present to audiences in other countries, and the people have the headsets and they listen. It used to be that was just something they did at the UN. Now you can do it at any conference. Mm-hmm. And so you have 3,000 people. They can't speak English, and they're listening to everything you say. I encourage people to do that. That is how you can really bridge
right.
The language issue in terms of complex subjects, and get people to come. Because it's very difficult to go to a country and speak to 45 people with a translator and have it stop and stop and stop.
Let's talk to 3,000 people with headsets on.
That's right. I mean, also, this is about technology.
Yes. It's a technological world. Let's use it.
That's true, but when you talk about Bulgaria, it's a little bit different.
Well, it's time for Bulgaria to join the 21st century. I know it can.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't have anything more in my hand. I mean, I'm super thankful for your time to talk and
This has been good.
share all this stuff.